Welcome once again to Retirement Designed Differently with financial advisor Billy Voyles. He's the founder of Fundamental Wealth Designs. I'm your host, Spike Spengel. Billy Voyles, what's on your mind this week?
What's on my mind this week is numbers. Sort of comes with the territory. In our workshops, I sort of announce some things about myself. I start with I'm a fiduciary. That is one of the questions that's often asked of us as a firm. Are you fiduciaries? And yes, in fact, we are fiduciaries. And then later I get into things about me. Obviously, I'm a parent. I have 4 little kids that run around, so that's something to know about us. 7, 6, 4, and 1. So please say a prayer for us as we try to track down all these little kids.
Every night, yes. Every night. Billy Voyles, 4 kids.
And then I'm a number. I tell people I'm a numbers nerd. Right? I've always liked numbers. They've always just sort of worked for me. I've always liked math. So if you don't like math, I got you. We got you covered.
That's right. So this program today, retirement by the numbers. There's all kinds of different numbers that people strive for, whether it's that target number of how much they need to save or the target age of when they want to retire. But there's all kinds of other numbers that get in there as well, such as the target of what we want on returns.
Yes.
We got to talk about the numbers of tax brackets and how all of these things come together. So Billy, is $1 million today the same as your parents' or grandparents' retirement lump sum? Does it go as far?
I don't think it does. And I think just in the last 4 or 5 years, you've seen it, right? Like $1 million at the old 4% rule. That's another number that's being thrown out there. Spike, have you heard of the 4% rule?
I have heard of the 4% rule. In fact, there's been some updates on it. But I think the concept is that you should be able to, on $1 million, you're gonna check my math. I know you are. $1 million, if you do a 4% withdrawal rate, that, if there's earnings in the $1 million, along with your tax bracket, should last hopefully at least 30 years in retirement. But that's a lot of napkin math right there. Those aren't really crunching those numbers.
Well, yeah, and for some of you, think if you have $1 million, that's going to give you $40,000 a year. Is that enough for you on top of your Social Security that's going to be coming in? For some of you, it's laughable. It's not even close to enough money in retirement. For others, just the $40,000 number is plenty. So that's why we talk about it in Retirement Designed Differently. In what we mean by different is it's different for everybody. That's one of the meanings of it. This isn't your neighbor's retirement. This isn't your cousin's or your brother's or sister's retirement. This is your retirement. Your life is different from those people. You might live next door to them, but you might live a completely different life when it comes to your income and expenses on a monthly basis coming in and out. And we see that all the time where people they're information gatherers. So they want everybody's different opinions on how they should treat their retirement and how they should approach it. And you're going to get 10 different people, you're going to get 10 different answers, right? Because everybody out there also has a different approach to it.
Right. Our brain is wired to create shortcuts. It doesn't want chaos. It doesn't want confusion. It doesn't necessarily like studying. You personally might enjoy learning new things, but the brain wants things simplified. So it grasps onto things like the 4% rule. I need $1 million for retirement. Like you said, that might not be anywhere near enough for people today.
Yeah.
The other part of the numbers is longevity. Billy, can you tell your clients how long they're going to live?
Unfortunately, I don't know the exact number of years you're going to live, but we do have information. So here's a statistic while we're on numbers. If you're a healthy couple, age 65, there's a 50% chance one of you will live to the age of 92. So that's a 27-year retirement that you need to prepare for. So on the concept of that 4% withdrawal rule, right, now comes the complications, right? 4% of $1 million, that's simple. But how should I invest $1 million in order to make sure that 4% lasts?
Right.
Should I bucket the strategies and have different investments for different, purposes of the money? Should I just invest in a 60-40 target date fund and let it ride? Should I put the money in the bank and just take 4% out as needed? Right? All of these questions are beyond the simple rule of take 4% of your money and let it ride. Well, we provide strategy and purpose behind it. 4% might be a right number, right? Might not be. but we need to implicate the actual strategy we're going to use and the investments we're going to use in order to get there. And that's where it's...
There's a big, huge flaw, though, that I believe I found here in this 4% rule. You and I were talking about this. Sure, if you're doing napkin math, if you're doing mental math saying, I'm going to draw out 4%, if my portfolio is making, let's say, 7% on average over long periods of time, you're like, well, I know my 7 beats the 4, so it should last long enough for me in retirement. But what's not factored into a 4% rule in these books and all of these estimates is your tax bracket. Now, there's some real numbers. From 12% to 20% and up to 32%, 39% effective at the highest. So you don't just have to factor in what you're withdrawing for that amount that month, but then you have to factor in the tax part of it as well. I think that's part of the equation a lot of folks forget.
Absolutely. Let's look at a 24% tax bracket in Minnesota. Add on our Minnesota state tax, it's 7%. That's 31%. So now all of a sudden $1 million is the big number. We take it and we only take 4% out. Now we have 40,000. We're taxed at a 30% rate on that. That's $12,000 just in taxes. Now we're only netting $28,000 left. It's in our pockets, available to spend. So then it is that going to be enough? Is $28,000 a year net of taxes and expenses going to be enough for you to last the rest of your life? Right? And if so, again, we go back to how does it need to be allocated? What is our rate of return going to be? One thing that I heard about recently, and I thought this was a very interesting switch in verbiage. ROI, for a lot of you out there, if you think about ROI in your head, you're thinking about the phrase return on investment. Right? When you're 20 or 30 years old, that's what ROI should mean, because you're investing money and all you're concerned with is the return on your investment that you're going to get. In retirement, I heard this and I loved it. I loved it. It now means reliability of income. How reliable is your retirement income? Because the 4% rule is still a maybe. It's still not certain, right? They use the word should last 20 years or 30 years, should last the rest of your life. Could, that's not guaranteed. And for some of our clients, that's not enough. They need to have guarantees built within their portfolios.
Taxes are important, but there's another factor of it. It's the ups and downs of the market. But right now, I want to focus on the taxes. So Billy has put together this book for you, To Roth or Not to Roth. It's one of the reasons why we're trying to get tax efficient into retirement. Now, there are some steps to this, and part of the pain is actually paying your taxes. Very simply, let's say you've got $500,000 in a retirement account, a 401k. You got $1 million, you get $2 million. To convert into a Roth, to convert part, you got to pay your taxes. But do you want to do that all at once, Billy, on a large account like that? Or do you want to try to spread it out over time?
Yeah, and I actually wrote an article for our Stillwater Gazette recently that talked about phased Roth conversions, because it's usually not best to rip the Band-Aid off all at once, right? That's going to create a lot of pain, right? But if we can work it off over a series of 5 to 7 years, that tends to work the numbers better in the long run. But we work with clients to figure out how does it work best within your plan.
So to try to figure that out, that's why Billy wrote the book, To Roth or Not to Roth. If you'd like a complimentary copy of it, call the phone number down on the bottom of the screen. When you schedule an appointment, we'll give you a copy of the book as well. Or right now, if you want to, as one of our viewers, you can open up your phone to the camera function, point it at the QR code. It'll take you over to the website. You'll see right there at the top, get my copy, complimentary of the book. More with Billy Voyles, Retirement by the Numbers, when we get back right after this.
I went into real estate in college. Part of the reason why I went into real estate is I got a phone call from my father informing me that he had cancer at the time. And my father was an HR director for corporate America. Got up early at 6, out the door at 6, and home at 6:30, and traveled. And I termed it that he worked for the man, and I wasn't going to work for the man. I was going to go get rich in real estate. But little did I know, the markets in Michigan were crashing and everything else. And so back to the fundamentals I went, which was go to school, get a job, work hard, get promoted, start saving money, and go from there. And the first job I got out of college was actually in financial services. And for the past 12 years, I had spent 1.5 million miles on an airplane to work with advisors. Financial advisors were my clients, and I was teaching them and consulting with them on how to grow their businesses. And I really just had to get off the road. I couldn't be what I wanted to be as a father to my family and as a husband to my wife by being on the road as much as I was. So the crazy next step in after having a 4th kid was quitting my job and launching this business, which is Fundamental Wealth Design. So it was a bit of an abrupt right turn, but it was all for the right reasons.
Welcome back to Retirement Designed Differently with financial advisor Billy Voyles. Hopefully during that break you were calling the phone number so you can get the complimentary copy of To Roth or Not to Roth when you schedule an appointment and come on in. You can also scan the QR code when that comes up, but call that phone number right there, schedule your appointment. Folks are standing by right now at our secure call center to schedule that appointment. Today we're talking about retirement by the numbers. Is retiring at 65, 66, maybe even earlier, is that still possible? We know that you always say the math wins when it comes to retirement, but we're living longer than ever. How long does $1 million stretch, and what are some of the factors that you consider if people can stay retired on $1 million?
Yeah, and when you bring up ages, right, that triggers people for, target dates for retirement. So you have the rule of 90, which is a pension rule, right, where that's when you can actually access your pension, another sort of number out there. You have 59 and a half, which is actually when you can start accessing all of your tax-deferred assets. We consider 59 and a half to 73 your tax control window. That's when you actually have control over paying taxes on all that tax-deferred money. Before that, they'll penalize you for taking it out too early. After that, if you don't take it out, they're going to penalize you, right? So we have this small window of time where we actually have control, and that's when we like to do our tax planning and strategies. But looking at all the considerations, your lifestyle, your current age, your life expectancy, your health, your risk tolerance and capacity. Let's talk about those. All of these are factors into can your $1 million last the rest of your life.
Right. And I think one of the last bullets on there beside cost of living is Social Security. We hit on it now and then, timing that. That's a numbers game as well, trying to make sure that it's going to last as long as you need it to. But this retirement by the numbers, when you're saying health, life expectancy, what should our viewers start determining for themselves? Are we just looking at our parents, grandparents? You were talking about longevity in your family.
Yeah.
You've got a centenarian in your family right now.
Yeah, it's difficult to really know. So you have to be honest with yourself, to realize I find it most that people think they're going to pass away likely sooner than they're probably anticipated to, because it's really hard as you sit out there. It's hard for you to envision living into your mid to late 90s. Because as you've lived your life expectancy continues to increase. So we talk about Social Security. Social Security was established in 1935, right, as a factoid, another number, 1935. Full retirement age in 1935 was 65. Life expectancy was only 67. So just in this past 100 years, we've moved life expectancy a decade and a half. And I don't know if you saw that Time magazine, it was several months ago, a couple years ago maybe even now, where there was a baby on the cover, and it basically said this baby could live to 124 years old or something insane like that, because life expectancy is progressing so fast. I saw something the other day where they have this net, an electric net to put around a heart to keep it beating forever. They're coming up with these crazy things that are going to increase longevity.
Well, and a story, I saw a woman in Houston just celebrated her 115th birthday. There are two other people on the planet longer, 116 and 117-year-olds. But what fascinated me about the woman in Houston, she lives with her young, sprightly daughter of 94 years old. So we've got to consider the longevity. And you might be laughing out there going, well, that's not going to be me. That's not going to be our family. But you don't know that. Or possibly think about your spouse. Yeah. 3 out of 4 of my grandparents lived into their mid-90s. So, as you said, the advances, literally, you just blew my mind. I'd never heard the heart thing before. I
just saw it on the airplane when I was flying, and it's just an article that I read, and I was completely shocked by it, but at the same time, it makes sense, right? Because electricity is what your brain creates, and it tells us, sends signals to beat and everything. And it's like, oh, if you just have this continuous beat or these electricity that's sort of shocking the heart on a constant basis, maybe it could be forever. I don't know. You know, this isn't our forte.
Every few minutes,
this isn't our forte, but it is interesting.
But while we're talking about retirement by the numbers, what I'm curious about is that quality of life and how we can choose to live a specific way. As we get older, I'm imagining a healthier amount of care needed, and that means financial care as well, because Medicare necessarily doesn't take care of these kinds of costs. So those retirement by the numbers, what is some of the monthly costs for long-term care facilities that you see just here in the area?
Yeah, if you know what the numbers are, maybe you've seen a relative go through this, but assisted living, you know, $8,000 to $9,000 a month is the going rate, you know, for an assisted living facility. Full nursing home might be as much as $10,000 a month in order to pay for all the cares and all the things necessary. So it does become drastically expensive. One of the numbers that's being tossed around again is just like this idea, this concept, not even considering long-term care, just the cost of health care in retirement being nearly $250,000 for folks as they go in. And that's paying for your Medicare expenses, paying for your co-pays and your ongoing deductibles and all these different expenses in retirement. It's the second largest expenditure in retirement is healthcare and healthcare concerns. And you see the numbers going up. We talk about inflation all the time. Medical costs are increasing at a higher rate than normal inflation. And if that's going to be your second largest expenditure in retirement, it's just another risk multiplier that we talk about that's going to impact the rest of your plan if you don't have it addressed.
Well, that's why sometimes I would like things like the 4% rule to address things like long-term care or medical events later in life. Because at $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 a month, I don't think that $1 million lasts that same 30 years. Yeah. Do you factor in increased costs like that in doing a retirement design, or do you show different modelings of what could happen? How do you take it for account?
Yeah, right now we're averaging between a 3 to 4% increase in inflation in our plan that needs to be supported by the investments, right? So we increase your cost every year by 3 to 4% regardless. And I feel safe doing so because if it's less than that, we'll be okay, right? But if we underestimate inflation in your plan, we screwed up, and we need to. When there's no way to go back and make up for it later, right? So that's the conundrum. So we like to estimate 3 to 4%, which is going to have your money double. Your retirement income will double with us every 15, 20, 25 years in order to keep up with those rising costs of inflation. And then the other thing is this whole, concept of if inflation takes hold and taxes also increase throughout retirement, it's sort of this twofold hit that we need to address. And then you add in healthcare, right? There's a lot of concerning things that are, they're going to affect the numbers and they're going to impact the numbers, but they're bigger issues altogether.
Right. Folks, getting your retirement design isn't just about dividing up what you have saved over how many years you might guess that you might live. Your fundamental wealth design includes the investments, how much risk you're taking, taxes, estate planning, Social Security timing. How do you get yourself to tax efficiency? Your retirement design isn't just about the numbers or returns or what your monthly spend is. It's a holistic plan put together by our entire team here at Fundamental Wealth Designs. Do yourself a favor. Call the phone number down on the bottom of the screen and let us help you get your fundamental wealth design put together. It's no cost for our television viewers. We have folks standing by at our secure call center right now. Dial that phone number. You might need a financial advisor when we get back right after this.
As a good saver, you've been putting away money during your working years. Studies find that the biggest fear of retirees is running out of money. Market volatility isn't just the downward movement of stock prices, it's the size and frequency of change. The more dramatic the ups and downs, the higher the volatility. This can put savers who are newly retired or a few years away from being retired at greater risk. Today's generation of retirees is not receiving traditional pensions as our parents or grandparents did. Instead, we have retirement accounts such as 401ks or 403bs. These accounts typically expose your money to market risk. The last thing you want right before retirement is to lose a portion of the money you need for income. But how do you turn these accounts into a retirement income? Is it safe to keep all your retirement money sitting in the stock market? The last thing you want is to lose a portion of the money you need for income due to market loss. By working with a financial professional, you can learn how to turn a portion of your savings into an income stream for life and income for the life of your spouse if you're married. We all have moments in our lives when we wish we had taken action sooner. Don't let procrastination reign on your retirement parade. Act now before it's too late. Please call our office to set up your no-cost, no-obligation retirement income review today.
Welcome back. You are with financial advisor Billy Voyles. He's the founder of Fundamental Wealth Designs, and this is your Retirement Designed Differently program. I'm Spike Spengel, and you might need a financial advisor if, Billy, what is it this week?
You may need an advisor if numbers aren't your thing. There are plenty of you out there where numbers are just, you don't like them, right? You deal with them, but you certainly don't want to have to address them on a constant basis. And, you know, we work with a lot of folks that come in and what we talk about just isn't their thing. And they want to, you know, really pass it over to someone that they entrust to put together a plan for them that's going to make sense for them, so then they can really just go out and live life and not worry about it.
I think one of the things that people enjoy about a program like this is actual examples. Who have you talked to recently? Somebody who just didn't know or knew that they didn't want to be handling these numbers on their own?
Yeah, absolutely. So we had someone come in a couple weeks ago, and 61 years old. She had worked for General Mills, actually, for 25 years. Built up a nice 401k there and left it alone. Didn't even, didn't look at it, didn't touch it. She went to be a business owner. She was actually in gardening and these different things over the last 20 years. And now, she doesn't really want to go out there and break her back anymore. And she didn't really pay attention to the counts. She just kind of let them ride. And now she's sitting on a large $1.8 million 401k situation where she's looking at it and trying to figure out, okay, what's next? What do I do from here? How much can I take? Should I do Roth conversions? All the questions we ask, it's a real life situation where she's 60, 61 years old, has access to it, retirement's on the horizon. When should she start taking Social Security? So she literally has all these questions, and she doesn't want to spend the time, right, that it's going to take to find her own solutions. She would rather take the steps to partner with someone in order to have someone create a plan for them, design a solution specific to her that addresses income and investments and taxes, all under one umbrella, and really take those steps to do so. So we look forward to working with her and creating the plan there.
Yeah, I love that. Doing very well, saved a lot, 61 on her own. Are you concerned at all, though, about somebody being retired for possibly 40 years?
Yeah.
Have you said that number to her? It's like, are you sure on this? Are you comfortable with the numbers, or are you still putting them together so far?
We're still putting them together. We're in the process. So we take 2 to 3 weeks in everyone's plan to make sure we do our diligence, where we're exploring all the options inside the plan, double checking our numbers to make sure, the whole measure twice, cut once.
Yes.
Because again, you can't go back. You can't do it over again. So we do take a decent amount of time between when we sit down with you first, and then we go through what we call our analysis period, which is 2 to 3 weeks of time. And then we come back with our recommendations because we want to make sure we're giving you, all the time necessary in order to create a plan that we know is going to work.
Something that's kind of sticking to mind, I think it'd be great if you can retire 61, 62, if you've got the savings, if it's within your budgeting lifestyle. But healthcare, that's something that comes to mind. They'd be paying out of pocket for that for 3 to 4 years. That could be quite expensive. Now, we don't know if she's going to be able to continue on the work plan. Is that something you're having to consider in there? Yeah,
and she's actually a business owner, so she's been paying for her own health care for a long time. And, it is something we have to be mindful of because in Minnesota, a lot of folks that want to retire early, they can take advantage of some of the credits that are provided through MNsure and MNcare by actually showing that you're living on less income. So in those scenarios, maybe we don't tap the IRAs or we don't do Roth conversions. And if there's cash balances to live off of, we can be strategic when it comes to that. But that's why it pays to work with a local advisor that knows and understands the rules in Minnesota and Wisconsin and the northern states here that we work in. We know and understand what issues you're going to face in our own state.
Speaking of, because I think you mentioned it a couple of months ago on one of the programs, the pension plans that are here, retirement by the numbers, do you have nothing to worry about if you're going to be receiving a pension plan? You're familiar with a lot of them.
Yeah.
Are there mistakes sometimes people make there?
Well, yes, unfortunately there are, and these are sort of that we did a risk and regrets. I regret taking this payout option of my pension because they weren't necessarily 100% educated on what that meant. So we run into some scenarios where people took the 100% option, like sole life only, like only for them, right? So the pension will only pay their lifetime. When they pass away, nobody gets anything else. And that may be the best option for some folks, but in certain situations, that puts the entire plan at risk because you could have had a $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 payout if you selected a different option or if you took the lump sum benefit. So again, like these are some big numbers we're talking about, but it is like, what does it mean? Should I take the 100%, the 75, the 50? There are all these different payout options. How does it work within the actual retirement plan that we've designed for you?
Billy, I'm usually saying it on the way out to break, so I'll give you a minute here to do this. The fundamental, the wealth design itself. Yes, the numbers are important, the investments, the risk, but what are the other elements that go completely into the holistic plan for you?
Yeah, so folks, if you're out there today and you're wondering what does it mean to work with a financial advisor like us? It means that we're going to care for you in a whole lot of different ways, right? Financially is just one way that we're going to sort of take care of you. And the numbers are what we do on a daily basis, but it goes beyond that. We care for our clients in a lot of different ways, but it does start with creating a retirement plan designed specifically for you that's going to address your income needs. It's going to address your tax situation and help minimize your taxes over your lifetime. And then we're going to make sure your investments are allocated properly to give you purpose behind the investments to make sure we get the most out of your money.
Thank you very much, Billy Voyles. We're going to be back again next week. You can get started on your own fundamental wealth design very simply. Call the phone number right now down on the bottom of the screen. We have people standing by at our secure call center. They'll schedule that appointment. And by the way, since Billy did just mention the taxes as well, when you call that phone number, you'll get a complimentary copy of his book, To Roth or Not to Roth. Schedule an appointment. Come on in. Thanks for watching. If you don't enjoy doing your retirement numbers, let somebody help you. Billy will be back next week.